All right, gang, I am off to go see Don't Breathe. And I certainly hope that the paying film-going audience doesn't take the title literally. Anyone that kind of knows me really well understands that I'm a pretty big scaredy cat when it comes to horror films. I get frightened very easily, and agitated for that matter. But I do respect and appreciate the genre. I think I really like psychological suspense horror more than, let's say, like the slasher horror genre, mostly because like I've seen those types of films done literally to death with a few possible recent exceptions, so they start to lose their flavor for me. But I think it takes a lot more creative effort to frighten audience members and make them feel genuinely uneasy. And I didn't know very much about Don't Breathe up until a few days ago, to be honest. Like, I kind of was reading the premise and I was like, yeah, it sounds kind of interesting. Then my interest got piqued when I heard that Sam Raimi was producing it. You can't go wrong with Sam Raimi.
Groovy.
It's from the director of the Evil Dead remake. And then I got really interested when I heard that Stephen Lang was in it. And of course, everyone knows Stephen Lang from Avatar, but he'll always be the party crasher from The Hard Way.
Me to you. Me to you.
And then I saw the trailer and was like, man, this trailer looks incredible. I am really pumped to see this movie. It went from being not on my radar at all to being completely on my radar. So I'm going to screen this puppy and I'll be back with a review. Okay, I'm definitely never touching a turkey baster for the rest of my natural life.
No, God!
All right, gang, I just got out of the emotionally draining Don't Breathe.
How many of you are there?
Really?
Man, I
Fucked up.
Anyway, for those that are really unfamiliar with this deeply disturbing and mostly intense psychological thriller horror film, it's basically about this group of three teenagers who decide that after a series of like small burglaries and scores, they scope out the somewhat dilapidated house of this blind Iraq war veteran who's played by the party crasher himself, Stephen Lang. And this is a guy who apparently got a bunch of money out of a court settlement when his daughter was killed in a car accident. So they think for some peculiar reason that this guy is actually harboring all the cash in his home. So they're figuring, this guy is easy pickings. Let's just break into this blind man's home. He's not going to put up a fight. He won't be able to see us. We'll rob him blind. And make out with the loot and lickety splits.
Rumor is this guy is sitting on at least 300K. Boom!
Wait, is he blind?
Messed up to rob a blind guy, isn't it?
Just because he's blind don't mean he's insane, bro.
Well, we wouldn't have a movie if the burglary in question was that easy. The kids do break into the home, and of course, little do they know, this guy is probably the most dangerously lethal blind man in movie history. Their cause is also not assisted by the fact that the blind man in question is played by the party crasher himself, Stephen Lang.
Me to you.
On a positive, I think that this film works on a level of tapping into like a lot of people's inherent and natural and universal phobias, like claustrophobia, for example. Even people that don't suffer from extreme claustrophobia can certainly appreciate this film's premise in the sense that you got a bunch of kids completely in over their heads, and they are trapped within tight confines they're not familiar with, trying to fend themselves off against a sociopath. So that's a fear. The film also taps into the fear of people losing their vision and going blind. There's a sequence in the film that's really quite wonderfully directed and staged and executed, where Lang's character turns off all the power in this dark and desolate basement cellar. So then the film taps into the universal fear of not being able to see, and you really gain a strong impression of the character's extreme anxiety and fear of this man. Because quite frankly, they can't even see where they're going. So the scenes like that work really, really well. The film is really exceedingly well paced. I would say for its first 60 plus minutes, give or take, and the film really knows how to use silence very, very effectively. And it sort of reminded me a lot of Buried for some strange reason, which was that criminally underrated psychological horror film with Ryan Reynolds from a few years ago that all took place in a coffin because his character was buried alive and he was trying to get out. So oddly enough, Don't Breathe reminded me of Buried in the sense that it takes a very minimalist premise, because the premise of the film is very simplistic in overall design, but it really takes it further than I was frankly expecting. You know, Stephen Lang is such an underrated actor, and I think maybe one of the problems with Stephen Lang is that he's often pigeonholed and typecast as these deeply deranged loose cannon / nut jobs, but he plays them so incredibly well. The performance that he gives, it's mostly mute. Like he utters very few lines of dialogue, with the possible exception of the final few minutes of the film. But it's just he brings such a raw, animalistic intensity to this part. There is never a moment in this film where you doubt the veracity of this character and his performance. He is a scary, frightening, intimidating, and monstrous presence in this film.
It's me.
The execs from 20th Century Fox are watching this film. I can't see how they don't cast this guy as Cable, because I know that Deadpool 2 is trying to get Cable in its main storyline, and Stephen Lang has been a champion of himself on his social media feeds because he really wants to play Cable. This guy could play Cable in his sleep. It is a done deal. 20th Century Fox, cast this guy as Cable.
Do it! Just do it!
I think the young actors are fine in the film. They're essentially props, more or less. If the film were to have a negative, they're really just puppets that are served up for this man's slaughter. I think where the one area where the film really, I think, goes off the rails and maybe jumps the shark is in this final late-breaking development that plays off of a plot twist that I can't really go into because that would engage in obvious spoilers.
Spoilers?
There is a moment very late in the film, I think it's at about this, I wasn't checking my watch, but it's at about the 65-minute mark, where you're just sort of like, really, is this film going there? It just, shit! And for a film that was building so much nail-biting tension and an escalating sense of unease and dread, to have a scene where that doesn't feel natural, it feels like it's the product of a horror movie script writing machine. And let's just say that I think the film devolves from the strong elements that are brought in the first 2/3 of the film. And yeah, but it didn't derail the film completely for me. I think Stephen Lang is just positively terrifying in this film. I mean, if there's one thing that's scarier than Stephen Lang, it is a blind Iraq War veteran Stephen Lang. He's just mesmerizing, and the film's visual look is really impressive, and it has this really interesting knack for camera shots and juxtaposing images, and the way that the camera sort of careens through the house in the earlier sections of the film, giving you a really good idea of its geography. That's really impeccably well handled. And the final 5 to 10 minutes just didn't really work for me very, very well. I wish I could just engage in a full spoiler review, because I would love to talk about the final few minutes of this film, but it just, I found it more laughable than frightening. But nevertheless, Don't Breathe is a very strong, pulse-poundingly suspenseful home invasion thriller. And I think the moral of this film is, don't commit robbery. I mean, this film is the ultimate PSA for juvenile delinquents that is thinking of committing break and enter. This film should be shown in schools. Seriously. So there you have it. There's my review of Don't Breathe. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of the film. Let me know what you think of the movies of Stephen Lang. What's your favorite Stephen Lang villain performance? This is right up there for me. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you could like it, I'd really appreciate it. If you could also subscribe to my channel, that would mean the world to me. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you at the movies.